I'm here with Danny the Digger, tour guide and archaeologist. And where will you take us today?
Well, we are in the heart of the old city. We're actually in the Muslim quarter right now. But let me lead you through this little humble door, which takes us into a very significant place from a Christian historical and theological point of view. This compound is claiming to be the very site of the trial of Jesus. What do we know from the New Testament about the place of the trial is that it happened in Jerusalem in a building called the Praetorium. The Praetorium is not mentioned by Josephus or any other sources, but they do mention a complex north of the Temple Mount called the Antonia. And perhaps this was the place of the Antonia, this was the place of the Praetorium, this was the place of the trial. And this chapel that we see today, completed in the 1920s, made by Barluzzi, the chief architect of the Franciscans, was designed to echo the trial and especially, or in the end of the trial. At the end of the trial, Jesus is found guilty. He's guilty of claiming to bring a kingdom of heaven, which Pilatus sees as a threat to the earthly kingdom of the Roman Empire. So he condemns him immediately to death, and to humiliate him, he decides to place a crown over his head, but it's a crown of thorns. And tilt the camera up to the ceiling of this chapel, and you will see that it is designed to look like a crown of thorns with drops of blood coming out of it, as if this is the actual place where Jesus is condemned to death. From here, he will take, walking out of the trial place, he will take his tool of execution, the cross, and carry it from here to the Golgotha, to the site of the execution. And by Catholic tradition, you have 14 holy stations between place of trial and place of burial and resurrection. Well, here we have a relief that is suggesting the path of the stations of the cross, suggesting that the trial took place north of where the temple once stood, at the Antonia fortress, and the execution itself was outside the city walls at a site known as Golgotha. This is documented in the New Testament. What the New Testament doesn't tell us is the exact path that he took. He must have used the local streetways of Roman Jerusalem and some dirt path perhaps just outside the gate. Today, unfortunately, all of this is inside the city, and so the Via Dolorosa today is actually forcing itself on the layout of the city from maybe Ottoman times. Don't take this path too literally, is what I'm saying as an archaeologist. This path is a holy path, it's a traditional path.
Had to connect to the story, to connect to Jesus.
Exactly. But I will say that the place of the trial and the place of the crucifixion, both places have solid archaeological evidence that they were indeed in use, one for gatherings in the time of Jesus, and the other was indeed a cemetery in the time of Jesus. The tomb of Jesus next to the Golgotha indeed has a shape of a tomb from that time. Furthermore, along the stations of the cross, there are places where one can see Roman pavement still appearing on the surface today. Now, some archaeologists suggest that maybe it's not from the 1st century, but from the 2nd century, but it is from Roman times. This path, I personally think, makes a lot of sense. Definitely the place of trial and the place of execution. All the traditions, all the stations in between are more traditional. Let's admit, the New Testament only records 7 events. So the other 7 events are more of a tradition, but there is some grain of truth behind all of this.
Okay, great. So let's continue to the next station.
Let's start walking along the stations of the cross. This is the mark of the first station. Okay? Actually, it's combining the first and the second station, the place of the trial, the place of the condemnation. So our next station is going to be the third one. And here's Arut.
Shalom, Danny.
Kif halak? How are you?
Good, how are you doing? Welcome, Jerusalem.
We're both waiting for the tourists to come back.
It's true. We hope
But you're open.
We try, we have to survive.
I love your shop.
Welcome.
Because not only do you sell icons, not only do you sell helmets,
New item.
New item.
not only, Boyti,
Oh, I have something more special than the items that you see. It's the wall.
yes, you also have jewelry and you have antiquities and you have rugs, but the reason I love coming to Harut's shop specifically is because this side of his shop is actually bedrock. And we've already learned that bedrock can be quite significant. And this Harut is possibly the
foundation of the Antonia fortress, which means this is the north wall of the Temple Mount. What's special about the north wall? That most of the north wall inside the Muslim quarter, and it used to be covered by Islamic building. But since we work with the Antiquity Authority, we get the opportunity to dig and to show it up. So today, like 400 feet this direction is the Dome of the Rock.
Yes.
So this is the same foundation, which is Mount Moriah. So since year 2000, my place became one of the closer area for a Christian and Jew to see and to touch part from the foundation.
And more than this, maybe this is the foundation of the Praetorium, the place of the trial of Jesus. So you are a neighbor of the first station. You are at the foundation of where the trial of Jesus took place.
Yeah.
That is quite remarkable. Much more than another souvenir shop in the old city. Thank you, Harut.
Pleasure.
Litraot.
A very special place.
All the best.
And Harut is also an authorized dealer with antiquities. Israel has a surprising tolerating policy towards antiquity trade. And you can get here Canaanite pots, you can get here Israelite juglets, you can get an oil lamp of Christian Byzantines, you can get coins that are mentioned in the New Testament. It's really amazing what some items can be purchased here in the Old City.
Maybe we should make a video only about that.
Yalla. There's a lot to discuss about the local biblical artifacts, but we're here today on a different mission, the Stations of the Cross. Let's go. Bye, Harut. Bye, Habibi. Litraot. Going back on the main alley here, it's not really a street. We pass here an interesting sign, which is marking the Litos Strotos. According to the Gospel of John, at the end of the trial, Jesus was taken out to the Litos Strotos, which literally means the stone-paved area. And both the second station with its stone-paved area and here in the Sisters of Zion's or Notre Dame de Sion convent, both have parts of a big stone-paved area, which by tradition goes back to the time of Jesus. Another significant item that one can appreciate is this arch. In the 19th century, before the modern construction, this arch was investigated and proved to be part of a triumphal Roman arch. By Christian tradition, underneath this arch, Pilatus hands Jesus to crucifixion. He's saying, here is the man. I don't really understand what's his guilt, but if you, the public, want so badly that he will be crucified, here is the man. Here is the man, in Latin, ecce homo. It's called the ecce homo arch. So it's actually confusing a bit with the tradition that the presentation was done over there. It goes to show how 2,000 years later we are not too certain about the exact location, but it did take place somewhere in this area. And not all scholars also agree that every element is from the time of Jesus, but it's definitely from Roman times.
Yeah. And it is not a part of the Via Dolorosa. Like
It's not a station. It's on the Via Dolorosa, but it's not a station. And ironically, today, this Roman triumphal arch has a church on one side, and you know what's on the left? A mosque. Only in Jerusalem. Here, get a photo of the sign. The Ecce or Ecce Homo arch. As I just said, the Catholics identify the place of the trial at the hilltop. The place of the Praetorium. That was the name of the place of the trial. But the Greek Orthodox say, no, you got it wrong. Where is it? It's over here. Look at the sign in Greek above the door saying, this is to praetorion, meaning this is the place of the trial. And if it's not clear enough, they also had here a sign in Greek and in English saying, this is to phulake to Christo, the prison of Christ, meaning after the trial, he was imprisoned here, or maybe before the trial actually, he was imprisoned in here, and once condemned to death, from here really starts the Via Dolorosa by Greek tradition. So here is the sign in English saying this is Via Dolorosa, and today these Israeli soldiers are standing on Roman pavement. By local tradition, this is where Jesus walked. And around the corner, the third station.
Been here, Yeshiva is like a higher education.
We've already learned that when you have these metal discs with Latin letters on them, it's a mark of one of the stations. And here, comfortably located one next to the other, is the third and the fourth station. The third station, the relief, says it all. It's the place where Jesus falls from the weight of the cross. And it will happen actually 3 times, Oren. This is the first of the 3 falls. And the station right next to him is where his mother, Mary, sees him, agonized over the fact that he's about to be put to death. And you're right, both are actually not mentioned in the New Testament. They are Catholic traditions that were added over the original story to create more contents in the reenactments, in telling the story of what happened to Jesus between his trial and his death and burial. Okay, 5th station. The sign in English indicates it's still the Via Dolorosa. Here is station number 5, whose Latin inscription states this is where Simoni Cyreneo crux imponitur. This is where Simon, a Jewish pilgrim from Cyrenaica, from Libya of today, comes to Jerusalem, and according to the New Testament, he is forced to help Jesus carry the cross. This event is documented in the New Testament, and Catholic tradition places it right here in this right turn.
Where we start ascending.
Yes, from here the ascent begins up towards the Golgotha, and although there is no Roman remains here on the floor even, the tradition says that when Jesus saw the ascent, he leaned against the wall. Now, if I lean against the wall, nothing happens. But I'm not the Son of God. He leaned against the wall, and look, the pilgrims are presented with this indentation in the rock, said to be caused by the left hand of the palm of Jesus. I must say that not only is the pavement here not from Roman times, it's brand new, because when you have proper traffic of pilgrims, this place is packed with excited pilgrim groups, some of them carrying a big wooden cross, chanting, singing, crying, as they're contemplating on the misery of the passion of Christ as he walked along this path to the place of his execution. And here we are approaching a big wooden door with the mark, the 6th station. And the column here adds in more detail that this is the 6th station, where Pia Veronica faciem Christi linteo deterci, where pious Veronica, the face of Christ, with a napkin or a veil, she wiped. What is the story? It's not mentioned in the New Testament, but by Catholic tradition, this was the home of a house of a woman called Veronica. Seeing Jesus passing by, sweating, bleeding, she comes out and she wants to relieve him by taking some of the sweat off. She's a man of generosity. But then as he passes by and she looks at the veil, an imprint of his face appeared on it. She created the first icon of any Christian saint, of Jesus himself. And some will say that her name is actually a symbol for her act, Veronica, for generating a vera icona. I must add, it's not from the New Testament. It is Catholic tradition, but it became very solid component of the belief of the events that Jesus encountered here. And they even used to present that cloth, that icon, It was on display up to the 15th century in Constantinople, in today's Istanbul. But when the Ottomans conquered it, it disappeared. This is one of the nicer souvenir shops, maybe the nicest. Who can resist not to look through this window and see these beautiful works of art that combine sometimes ancient Roman glass? This shop has a permission to use such items, or the Elat stone, semi-precious, beautiful, bluish, greenish type of stone that comes from the southern end of Israel next to the Red Sea, which is also a popular type of local souvenir. And just a few meters ahead, the 7th station is actually on the intersection of the road coming from the place of the trial with what used to be a main avenue that used to cut through the city center. It is still in use. It is still a main artery of the city from Damascus Gate to Zion's Gate.
And until now we were in the Muslim quarter, and now we enter the Christian quarter.
We're switching into the Christian quarter, although the surface, the street still looks very Muslim. What happened here? So the relief or the sculpture added on the right side presents the subject, the fall again from the weight of the cross, the second fall of Jesus. But here the claim is that it is happening outside the city, meaning up to where we are standing, more or less, Jesus was walking inside the city. But the New Testament tells us that the crucifixion on the Golgotha was outside the city. So where did he exit? Tradition says right here, meaning the second fall is already outside the city, and we have just a few more meters to get to the site of the execution itself. Next to the 7th station, you have the 8th station. The 8th station is quite interesting as it documents an event that the New Testament does record, the event in which the women of Jerusalem see Jesus carrying the cross, about to be put to death, and they cry for him. But his response, you shouldn't cry for me, you should cry for yourselves. He is predicting that Jerusalem will be attacked and conquered and destroyed by the Romans, a prophecy that was indeed fulfilled. And the little edge of a Roman column in secondary use, put on its side, is the mark for that 8th station, as the sign above is saying, and so is the metal disc again. On the column itself, there's text in Greek saying, Isos Christos Nika, Jesus Christ the Victorer. Okay, but it's actually a Roman column, like the one over here, that was reused when the Greek Orthodox made a monastery here. And frankly, that monastery is blocking the path to the Golgotha. Okay, the next station you can only reach by going back, as if Jesus made a U-turn here. No, as we said in the beginning, don't take this path too literally. It has a grain of truth, but it is mostly based on medieval traditions. Behind this stand of this guy selling fresh juice, very tasty by the way, you have here a door that if it was open, you would be amazed to see what is in its warehouse. The back part of his store actually has a giant entryway of massive stones. This, Oren, is the original entryway into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The church that was completed in the year 335 to mark the place where Jesus was put to death, died, buried, and by Christian belief came back from the dead. Originally it was 4 times bigger than what is today, and it was entered from the main street of Roman Jerusalem from Cardo Maximus.
So most of what we see today is from the Crusaders' time in the church.
And later. Yes.
But the original entrance to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre was right
Here. Today, in order to continue our journey, we're going to walk above his store, kind of on the rooftop, and reach the 9th station, the last station before you enter the church itself. and both switching into the Christian quarter and getting so close to the hill of the Golgotha, the Christian world is so eager to possess any property available over here. So this building, Oren, is actually Russian owned. If you tilt to the top, you can see the Russian Christian symbol and Russian writing around it, which is marking Russian property over this whole area east of the Holy Sepulchre of today. And its neighboring property belongs to the Coptics. The Coptics are the Christians of Egypt, a very old community that began in the 3rd century, and they have their own liturgy, and they have also preserved some of the hieroglyphic type of writing. And everyone is around that dome. The smaller dome is right next to the hill of the Crucifixion, and the bigger dome is the dome over the tomb of Jesus, the place where he was buried. Yet 3 days later, it was found empty. The empty tomb, the testimony by the disciples of his resurrection, is the most significant component, in my opinion, in Christian faith. And it's right there. As we approach the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, on the right side of this lane is again a metal disc with the digit 9, the 9th station. Here Jesus falls again, one more time, from the weight of the cross, which is also expressed in this added new kind of sculpture. And it is his last fall before reaching the place where he will be hammered to the cross and then put to death by crucifixion. The perimeter of the church in this area is maintained by the Ethiopians and the Coptics. These two institutions are Coptic property. It says so here in English, Coptic Orthodox Patriarchate. The church in this case is all devoted to Saint Anthony. Anthony, Megalou Antonius, is the first Christian monk recorded in Christian history. He came from Egypt. He laid the foundation for the concept of Christian monasticism, and the Coptics are very proud of it. And the other church is honoring Queen Helen. Helena Augusta is a very significant person in Christian history. She was the mother of Constantine. She convinced her son to embrace Christianity. And I always carry a coin that are showing her image in profile here. Yes, she was a queen, so there were coins depicting her. And she was the one to convince her son to embrace Christianity, and then she is the one to come to the Holy Land and identify the spot where Jesus was born, and also identify and approve the place where he was put to death. She is laying the foundations for Christian faith in the Roman Empire and for the holy Christian sites in the Holy Land.
Okay, so now we are in front of the main entrance, the modern entrance to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
Yeah, as shaped by the Crusaders. In 1149, they complete the renovation of the church and give it the shape that is followed pretty much to this day. It's important to emphasize that the original church from the Byzantine period was almost 4 times bigger, and its entrance was from the east. The entry today is actually a fascinating reflection of the Crusaders' architecture, mixing Muslim elements and mixing or recycling elements maybe even of a Roman shrine that used to be in this area. This building in general, Oren, is patches upon patches. It is such an architectural mess and also a political mess. Who is in charge here? It's not an easy answer. There are actually 6 different denominations which quarrel over the custody of this building. Behind you, the door has Greek written over it, while this door has Armenian written over it. The stairway over here belongs to the Catholics, and this area belongs to the Greeks. We entered from an Ethiopian chapel, And if this is all not complicated enough, there's a Muslim mosque in the back. And who's in charge of the security? The Jews, or the Jewish state of Israel. This building is fascinating on so many levels, but if we want to focus on the specific subject of the stations of the cross, the 10th station is right here. When you see columns in the old city of Jerusalem, they often do have a purpose. They're not just standing there for decoration. In this case, the 10th station is marked by this column, the place where Jesus is stripped off his clothes. The heel of the crucifixion is in the back, and this is where his clothes are taken off. Eventually, they will be given to the Roman soldiers, and he is taken up to the place of his execution. Every stone, every part here has a certain issue over its custody. Here you have Latin inscription. If you see Latin, this is Catholic. This is now the hallway that leads to the heel of the crucifixion. And by the Catholic tradition, this is the site of the 11th station. You can see this wall mosaic depicting the subject, the hammering of Jesus to the cross.
First, we can have a look and see the 10th station. Let's see.
10th station is just there outside.
So outside we cannot reach it.
And you used to be able to walk from the 10th station through this stairway, but now it is blocked and you have to enter and use a different entryway. It's another testimony for how sometimes things can change because of different political situations.
So
And
this is the 11th station.
Now, what's important is that the Catholics strongly believe that the place of the execution of Jesus is where once upon a time Isaac was almost sacrificed. And you can see it well here in this image. You can see Abraham is about to slaughter his own son to show his blind faith to God. And then at the last minute, the angel stops him, and a ram, an animal, is presented to replace human sacrifice with animal sacrifice. And that was the habit in the Jewish religion throughout the centuries until the destruction of the temple. Christianity believes that the sacrifice of Jesus replaces also animal sacrifice. So notice how the style in which Isaac is depicted is remarkably similar to what Jesus looks like in this image. And both events, by Catholic faith, happen at the same spot, the heel of the crucifixion. And I'm amazed because usually it's so crowded here, but right now there are almost no people. We can actually film it. We can film this barren rock protected only by glass to show you there's a heel here, and here in the middle, bring the camera to show it. Here in the middle there's a metal disc that if you put your hand through it, you are putting your hand at the very place where the vertical beam of the cross was positioned. The heel of the crucifixion, the Golgotha.
And this is the 12th station.
This is the 12th station, and right next to it, the 13th station, the place where Mary stood, watching her son dying. What a terrible feeling, what a terrible moment. The pain she felt was like a sword piercing her body, and this is what this sculpture is reflecting, with many, many offerings given by pilgrims. The 13th station.
And now we will head to the 14th station, which is the last station.
Yes. All of this is happening on a Friday. In the afternoon, after about 6 hours, it is over. Tetelestai is the Greek word from when Jesus says it is done, it is complete, he is dead. And then the family takes the body off the cross, and let me show you where it will be buried. returning back to street level, here we have a big wall mosaic that is rather recent. Even if you don't read Greek, the year 1990 tells us the time that it was added. And it's actually a useful tool for tour guides and for visitors to understand the sequence of events that happen here on that special Friday. In the afternoon, it is over. Tetelestai, he is dead. The family takes the body off the cross, it puts it on a slab of stone, it pulls the nails out, it anoints the body, it covers it with linen, and it takes it to a burial cave of one called Joseph of Arimathea. All of these places are said to be inside this church. The hill of the crucifixion, the Golgotha, is behind us. The tomb is around the corner. And this stone, where people kiss, caress, cry, put items over it, so these items will be blessed, is said to be the stone of unction, the place where the body of Jesus was wrapped and prepared for the burial. Here it is. And what a remarkable moment. There are almost no people inside. Let's try our luck to film also the interior. Of course, this is all modern or semi-modern construction after the big fire of 1808. But the interior still holds the original features of the burial cave that this once used to be. The first room is where the body again was prepared for the burial. The candle is lit over a stone that was part of the ceiling stone in the back.